Mark, what you reading there, Mark?
Hey, Paul, I'm just revisiting Flashpoint in preparation for this new movie coming out.
A new movie?
Yeah, in a couple weeks, The Flash, originally titled Flashpoint, will be releasing in cinemas nationwide.
It will be in just less than 2 short weeks.
Yeah, have you
We'll
got
be
your
out.
tickets?
I do. I have my tickets for Friday. I know you have yours for Thursday night, I believe, right?
Yeah, Thursday. We're going at like 3 in the
Third
afternoon. We're not
Thursday,
late.
the IMAX premiere, right?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. We should talk about it then, and we'll do that right after this. What do you know? Tucked in all those within all those little events, there was a little flashpoint
There
was right
was.
in the middle of there.
Yeah,
So,
I got to tell you,
uh,
Andy Kubert's art in this is amazing.
isn't it? Isn't it? Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Make sure you hit the notification bell so that whenever we upload new content, you will be alerted as to when we do so. Make sure you leave a comment and don't forget to hit that like button. It helps with what is it you call it? The algorithm gods?
The eternal
The
battle
eternal
against the
battle.
YouTube algorithm gods.
Yes, exactly. We
We
need
will
all the
not
help
be
we can get.
denied.
Exactly. But we're going to talk about this is kind of a special edition of our DC deep dive. There really was nothing that came out for the Dawn of DC really this past week, and it seemed fitting that with the Flash movie coming out in just about 10 days or so, that we talk about Flashpoint
And if you
because to your
didn't
point,
know,
Mark.
I think it's important to point out this is the second time we're kind of visiting content that's themed toward something happening that's relevant with DC. So if you missed it, we uploaded a video 2 weeks ago. It was actually a
Yep.
special episode. It came out on a Thursday. So just check a couple episodes ago. We looked at the official prequel to the film. So if you want to know what happens between Zack Snyder's Justice League and the upcoming Flash movie, check that video out. It might save you some time and some money, and it might get you interested enough to go buy the prequel itself. It's definitely worth the read.
It absolutely is. And to your point, although it's not called Flashpoint anymore, the original title of the movie was called Flashpoint. They have done through, I mean, this is a movie that has been in the works for
Eight,
three, four,
9 years.
five, 9 years, eight,
They
nine
announced it
years.
in 2014 was the first time they announced it, then officially televised the announcement in 2015.
Right. And so it's gone through a lot of different iterations and everything. And because of the, the, the rise and the fall of the Zack Snyder universe and everything, it's gone through lots of different changes and everything. So it's not really as bound to the Flashpoint story as it may have been in the past, but there definitely are beats for the Flashpoint story that will be in the movie as well.
I honestly think it might be more relevant toward the Flashpoint story than it could have ever been previously,
Hmm.
because this will be ushering us out of the Zack Snyder universe proper. Zack Snyder's DC universe comes to an official close with this film.
Right. Exactly.
Whoo, whoo, as do the comic books as well.
Hmm. Right. So Flashpoint was a 5-issue miniseries that was written by Jeff Johns, art by Andy Kubert. Um, and we'll talk about what its purpose was as we go through this. And because it's 5 issues, we're not going to spend 5 issues going through every single beat that happens here in the story.
It's going to be a
Um,
medium dive.
right,
It's
exactly.
going to be a
It'll
deep
be
dive in the shallow end.
Um, but basically, this is a story where Barry Allen wakes up in a world that he doesn't recognize anymore, with his memories actually starting to fade as well. He first realizes that it's not his world when he tries to run as fast as the Flash does, and he ends up falling down some stairs. Uh,
And landing at the foot of his mother.
Correct. Who, if you know the Flash story, as is dead. His father was convicted for the murder. His father was in prison for the murder. But now his father is dead here in this world, and his mother is alive. And so he knows that there's something wrong. And as much as he tries to figure out what's going on, he basically is just kind of overjoyed for one that he has his mother back, and and who wouldn't. But then he has to try to figure out exactly what's going wrong, and so he knows that there are some things that are going on, and he knows that there's a Batman, so he goes to see the Batman.
Yeah, and it goes south for him pretty much right off the
Right.
bat because he gets to Bruce Wayne's house and it's dilapidated, it's beat down, but he does make his way through the house through some familiar hidden doors and stuff, and he makes his way down to the Batcave, and it looks nothing like he's seen before. There's no supercomputers, there's no big tech everywhere. It's just pretty much just a table, a chalkboard, some photos, and the keepsake gun from that horrible night in the crime alley. That's where he meets this universe's Batman.
Right. He finds out we are introduced to some other threads that go on throughout the Flashpoint. Not only in this book, but there were, I think, like 14 different miniseries that went along with this.
Yeah,
We
total
find
all in all, it's 64 issues for counting the 5 main body books. So that's 59 other tie-in books where they explore the Flashpoint universe.
Right, and so we see or we hear about how Aquaman has flooded parts of Europe and
All
everything.
of the UK, the entire UK, he drowned.
Right. The Wonder Woman and Aquaman are battling each other. At one point they were romantically linked, but now they are basically at each other's throats. And all of the characters are familiar, but just a little bit off from what we recognize them as.
Probably Batman being one of the most off because we learned that he's like ultra violent, willing to kill people. Like we're first introduced to him chasing down this universe's Harley Quinn. Basically, he's looking for Joker, chasing down Harley, and she's not willing to talk. So he just throws her off a building, fully intending to kill her. And she gets saved by this universe's Cyborg, who's pretty much like, seems like he's the only sanctioned superhero of any kind. He works under the government, for the government, not like a stooge for him or anything, but he's trying to recruit Batman because everyone looks at Batman as like their only chance. If Batman's on the team, then it's worth being on the team because what he's trying to do is get together a team to go stop Wonder Woman and Aquaman. They're at each other's throats. They're not even looking at the rest of the world while they burn it down, flood it, and destroy it. So nobody's willing to stand up to them.
Right. And so as Barry Allen confronts the Batman in this world, he suddenly realizes by the end of the first issue that this universe's Batman is actually Thomas Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
And there were quick another aside about all of the miniseries is you can just read the 5 Flashpoint issues and have the complete story. But if you want to know more about like Thomas Wayne, there are some pretty good things that happen. This is like in the Batman in the Flashpoint Batman story, like the fact that Martha is this universe's Joker. So
He's
there
not
although
he's
there
not
are
a doctor. He runs a casino, hasn't practiced medicine for decades. It was a
right.
small part of his life.
Right. And some of these things were revisited in the Flashpoint Beyond series from not too long ago as well. But anyway, Thomas Wayne, this universe's Batman, does not take kindly to Barry Allen. Finally, Barry convinces him that he is what's going on, and he convinces this universe's Batman that what he needed to do is he needs to create the lightning accident to give himself the powers again that he used to
And what's
have.
funny is the way that the straw that breaks the camel's back, because Thomas was sitting there breaking his fingers one by one, trying to get the truth out of him, not believing his story. But in the midst of this, the flash ring falls out of his pocket. So he's like, dude, let me show you. He grabs the ring, he flips a switch, and out pops out the flash suit, but not his. It's
Right.
Eobard Thawne's. It's the reverse flash suit pops out, and he looks like he's seen a ghost. We now have our suspect of who has caused this Flashpoint event with the yellow flash. There's like a gag in there. And Thomas immediately says, like, oh, this guy's a sociopath. He wants you to know that he did it. He's playing with you. So that's when they kind of start to get on board. And he agrees to help him recreate the event that created the Flash.
Right.
Ugh.
First try does not go well.
Almost dies. 3rd-degree burns, 80% of his body. Go to the roof, put him in a chair, strap him to it, put some poles in the air, and put all the chemical compounds that were present in the lab at the time all around him, and it doesn't take but a second for the lightning to hit it and charboil him. Like, he is well done.
Right. And as any hero would do, basically the first words out of his mouth is "Let's do it again."
Yeah, run that back. You gotta.
Yeah,
Thomas thinks he's crazy. He helps him up there. Of course, he doesn't even get him into the chair fully before they get hit again. Bow! Thomas
right,
goes flying off the roof. Barry gets hit. We see the crackle in his eye, and Thomas is falling to his death off the roof, about to get spiked by the fence. And here comes Barry down the building across the fence and catches him, and thus proving his story to be true and setting into motion them on their quest to shut this world down. Thomas realizing that if this is true, everything else he told me is true, meaning on his world, my son is still alive, which means this
correct.
world means nothing anymore. So Thomas is on a mission to just erase this world that was never meant to be. His son was never meant to die. He was. So he's on board.
Right. And so what they need to do, what Thomas and Barry do, is they go back to Cyborg, and Cyborg is convinced that if he can get Barry on his side to do what he needs to do against Aquaman and Wonder Woman, that lots of the other heroes will follow along because. Well, because he's Batman, basically. And if Batman is okay with it and on board, then they should be on board with it as well.
They've
Um,
pretty much figured there's no way, they don't have an opportunity or a chance of catching the Reverse Flash and setting things straight if the world's destroyed before they do. So they're kind of in a weird position of having to address the Wonder Woman Aquaman war to even get to a point to try to set this world straight.
right. And so to make some quick parallels, in the Flashpoint story we have Thomas Wayne. In the movie we're going to have the Ben Affleck Batman. We're going to have the Michael Keaton Batman. We also have Specimen Number One, um, which
Subject
in
one.
Subject Number One. Sorry.
Yeah, for
We're
context, the Michael Keaton Batman is the placeholder for
right.
Thomas Wayne. While he's not Thomas Wayne in the film, he's not Batman 89 either. This is
Right.
Flashpoint Batman, the Batman that exists in this world, unique to this film, played by Michael Keaton, which I think was a nice touch.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so we have Subject Number One, who was crash landed, in Kansas. Uh,
In Metropolis, in the
sorry.
Flashpoint world. So Barry's
Right.
looking around the world trying to figure out what he can find familiar. What do we need? I've got the Batman of this world. We know Wonder Woman's done lost her marbles. We need Superman. Where's
Right.
Superman? How is he not here? And he tells Batman, like, of the Superman and who he is on his earth. He's like, something like that happened here. And he shows him the news from where years ago, what was told to the public was a meteor crashed in Metropolis, killing tens of thousands of people. Well, Cyborg hacks into the files. Turns out it wasn't a meteor, it was a spaceship. It was immediately retrieved and taken by the government and never heard from again. So their mission right now is to break in where Cyborg's files show that this Superman should be and go get him because they need him.
Right. Which they do. They go and they find him in this vault, which has the huge S on the outside of the vault, although it just has an S and a one on his
Yeah,
little costume there. Um,
because there were
uh,
three. Because there was Superman in this is not called Superman.
right,
He's called Subject One. He just
right.
has a designation that says that there was three subjects. We are shown Subject Two, which is the corpse and bones of
Uh,
Crypto. For
uh, uh,
God's sakes,
correct.
savage.
Yeah,
And I don't know
exactly.
who Subject Three is. I don't know if that was addressed in the tie-in stuff that I missed or later or anything, but
Yeah, I don't actually recall, but yeah, yeah. I mean, to see the bones of Crypto on the table there was
savage.
exactly was not
This
good.
world's got
So
to go.
right, exactly. Um, and so as soon as they break out Superman, they are then beset upon by all the guards and everything from that particular hideout. So
Superman, who's never seen the sunlight his entire time here on Earth, who weighs probably 90 pounds soaking wet and is as pale as the wall behind me.
right, right. Um, uh, there also is the group Captain Thunder. We can't forget about Captain Thunder as well. So there is the equivalent of Captain Marvel or Shazam in this world as well. Um, uh, they end up all working together. Um, let me just
Yeah,
they end up
they get Superman out, and like you
right,
mentioned, they were beset upon. He pretty much has a freak out. He
right,
has an emotional reaction, lasers some people, and flies off. They get out of there, and they need more recruitments because they need more people. So they go to young Billy Batson and his entire family. The Captain Marvel family is there, the Shazamily, and they get them on board. And now they're getting ready to make their way overseas, where they're going to hopefully meet up with a small rebellion band that's over there trying to fight from the inside as well, who we were introduced to earlier. You got Steve Trevor over there, Lois Lane's hiding out. And I don't know if they showed Grifter earlier, but Grifter's part of the team. Etrigan the Demon, a couple other
Demon.
smaller
Yep,
characters.
right. Right, and so on the battlefield where everyone is in the fifth issue, suddenly Eobard Thawne shows up as well, and of course being the evil villain that he has this very long dramatic soliloquy where he basically talks about how it's me that did it to you all along, and before he can finish what he's doing, Thomas Wayne takes a blade and shoves it you know through
Yeah,
Eobard Thawne.
but he didn't do it before Reverse Flash pointed out that I didn't create this world.
Right.
You did, Barry. I'm just here to watch it all burn down because by Barry creating this world, he freed Thawne. It's always been a paradox. Flash has to exist for Thawne to exist, so therefore he can never kill him. He can only torment him, and that kind of thing. But because of this Flashpoint event, it freed Reverse Flash. So now he can finally kill him. And about this time, Batman puts whose blade was it? Was it Deathstroke's blade he puts through his back? No, he died on the battleship earlier.
Yeah, I'm not.
It was
Don't recall
somebody's
exactly.
sword. It
Right,
wasn't his own.
right. And so now we get the closing here, and there's Barry with his mom. There's Thomas Wayne. Everyone is basically telling Barry that he has to set things right. He has to set things back to the way that it was. No matter what the cost is to him, he has to set the universe right again. And so what he does is he needs to run back into the time stream to fix it. And when he does that, he starts seeing all these multiple timelines that appear to him. And there is a figure that appears who we later find out to be Pandora. Um, who basically says that there are three time streams, basically, and that they have to all come together as one in order to fix the universe. And we find out that at the end, um, Barry ends up putting the universe back. He finds Bruce. He gives Bruce a letter that his father wrote, Thomas Wayne wrote, which is
A moment.
obviously
It was a moment.
it was a moment.
Batman
Um,
cried.
right. But the whole universe, the whole Barry um, running through time is
Yeah, that was a wicked, wicked page
yeah,
splash. And this is
right,
your first look at what is going to be the new 52 because these timelines coming together like butt cheeks is what brings us into the new 52 that's there on the bottom right. So we get like the old like pre-crisis, post-crisis, and this new
right.
52 world that is the cause effect of this event.
Right. So let's talk about that for a second because I really like Flashpoint. I think some people may judge Flashpoint by the fact that it created the new 52. And whatever the new 52
Mixed.
is something that, people have some very strong opinions about,
Mhm.
whether they like it or not. The other thing I wanted to mention too is, and I think I've heard Jeff Johns say this, that in many ways, Flashpoint is actually a Thomas Wayne story. It is not a Barry Allen story.
Yeah, that's
Um,
super fair, especially knowing what we know after the fact too, because though this was the death of that universe, Jeff Johns has found a way to bring it back in a sense. And we also
right.
saw Thomas inside of TK's Batman run. And yeah, that's definitely fair because he's fighting to save his son, fighting to save Batman, and he's really the hero here because Barry committed the ultimate act of selfishness to cause all of this. So yeah, I
Yeah.
can see that.
Yeah. So the New 52, it was basically it was a publishing initiative by DC in 2011. What they did was they renumbered all of their stories to back to issue number one, including Action Comics and Detective Comics that a lot of people did not agree with. Renumbering it to number one. They basically the New 52 was they published 52 different titles in 2011. That's what they started with anyway, was the New 52, and they kind of stuck to it for a while. For every one that they would cancel, they would kind of start up a new one so that they were continuing to publish 52 stories. Funny to me anyway is that actually the New 52 ended with issue number 52 of all of those titles because that's when Rebirth started.
And the most important thing about New 52 is it completely reset continuity.
Right,
Everything from 1938 up until that point never happened.
right,
I mean,
exactly.
it happened, but due to the Flashpoint, it erased it all. Everyone, Green Lantern met Batman for the first time all over again. Clark and Lois were not a thing. Like there was no history. It was starting. It's like DC Comics started right then. So there was that's what was really so controversial of it for a lot of people. Like, yo, like I've been following this guy forever. I don't want to restart with a different style, tone, take, dynamic, blah, blah, blah. But it was also a great jumping on point. And I know numerous people that started reading at that point and they will swear by it because that was their introduction to it. So it has its pros and cons. And that's what we're going to see the film do. When The Flash comes out and we know it's the Flashpoint story, and we know moving beyond timeline of the Flash film is James Gunn resetting the DC universe with some familiar faces, with some new casting, with all new storylines. It's because of the events in this film. So they found a way to honor what came before. It's canon, it happened, but because of this event, things are now differently, and you have the freedom to write, create from a clean slate if you choose to, and keep what the fans really love. RIP Superman Henry Cavill, but we'll see. I trust the process. There's never been a bad Superman casting. That's still hard to process, but
Mm,
this is it. This is the big
yeah.
finale.
Yeah, the New 52 was for the problems that it had, and to your point, there were problems with continuity. Like for instance, supposedly none of the heroes had been active for more than 5 years, so it was 5 years at the most, and yet Batman still already had four Robins. In his, so there was like, how did that happen? But
You
for
had
all those
Superman
issues that they
running,
had,
you had Action running as like a multi-year
right,
prequel, and you have these creative teams stepping on each other's toes. Like, who can I
right,
introduce? When he meet him? It was the continuity across 52 titles starting at once, fresh, was so tight that these writers felt like they were handicapped trying to take this
right.
on.
But you also got, I mean, you got the Court of Owl came out of the New 52. You had some really, really good stuff. So there was, there were definitely some really good stories as part of the New 52.
Earth 2 from
Aquaman
Tom
came back to
Taylor.
promises. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Aquaman came back into prominence, after having not been for a while. So, but it just got to be, too much for a lot of people. And so they did the rebirth to kind of, and it also um, kind of felt as though it had gone too dark in a lot of different ways as well too. So
Yeah, they
that's kind of
definitely set themselves separate from Marvel. That's when
right,
everyone really started. DC was kind of going that route. An Infinite Crisis and 0506 addressed it specifically head on, but they leaned into it. They didn't do Infinite Crisis and step away from it. They did Infinite
right,
Crisis. We had what 1 year and then straight in the New 52 stuff. Like
right.
they're like,
Yeah,
screw it, let's do it.
yeah. Um, and so I really like Flashpoint. I really like most of the New 52 as well. It's one of the high points I think of the different Flash stories that have come along over the years. And Jeff Johns is still playing with those pieces that he put in place,
It's that
as part of
memorable.
Flashpoint. You know,
It's definitely that
between
memorable.
Flashpoint Beyond, he's still using the globe in Justice Society
Mhm.
of America. So he's still doing all of those things.
Trying to
Through
they
Doomsday Clock,
solidified that Flashpoint world still exists, and we're still
right,
in the process of learning all the details of that, and we see the importance for Batman to keep that world to exist, because on that world his dad's alive.
right,
And this has been
right.
made into a feature animated film as well, the Flashpoint Paradox from the
Paradox.
DC animated films, which is in my opinion, better executed than these 5 issues were because they kind of pull a little bit of elements from those tie-in books
Yep.
and make a more fluid story. Currently, Todd McFarlane's DC toy line is doing a massive build a figure wave that we've only got half of it released so far. So this is a story that is going to last on long after we're gone. This is one of those like must reads for any Flash fan.
Absolutely. And it's if you just want to again, if you just want to read the Flashpoint, 5 issues, you get the entire story there. So don't feel as though you have to branch out into those 14 other whatever miniseries or whatever. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I'm excited to see how it impacts the movie coming up. There you go.
Yeah, instead of
Um,
Wonder Woman and Aquaman warring, we have Zod taking over the
mhm,
planet.
yep, exactly.
Yeah, I'm
So.
pumped. I'm pumped.
But yeah, but that's gonna be it. I love doing these little looks back at these stories and how they're still impacting the DC Comics universe today. So, um, but again, don't forget, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Make sure you leave a comment for us because we are definitely, we want to hear what you have to say. What would you like us to cover? Anything you want to see us go back to, take a look at? Because we're open to anything. We got Night Terrors coming up after the dawn of DC, so
Really.
um,
I don't know why.
it's,
I've done lost all steam for that, man. That
I thought you were. I thought.
checklist just triggers my completionist.
I thought you were doing your Freaky Louie imitation.
No.
But that's going to be it. We will see you next week. We have Flash 800 coming out next week, so
Woo!
we should definitely talk about that
Jeremy
for
Adams just unboxed his whole stack of comps too. I'm excited for that issue.
exactly. So, um, so that's going to be it. I am Paul. He is
I am
Mark,
Mark, but we are Legion.
and you are now leaving Sector 2815.